Chapter 7, The 12 Guards. It seems that we're going to have a good meal for tomorrow, Mrs. Haven said and smiled. Augustine nodded and bowed, understanding her master's orders. June was preparing Arya for bed when one of her colleagues knocked at the door. Holly, what is it? It seems that the mayor's son has taken a few men to go hunting tonight. What an imbecile, doesn't he know that there's a wolf out there? He's going to get himself killed, June said with a smile as she brushed Arya's hair while the girl sat on the vanity. Arya turned to look at the maid whom she never seen before. Hello child, I'm Holly, she said with a smile. I'll meet you outside, June. She then left. How come I never seen her before? Arya asked. Oh, that's because she's assigned to all the needy, greedy stuff in the castle. You will start seeing more of the other maids in winter. Why? Because there will be less chores to do in the winter. Except for serving the family. But how are the other maids treating you so far? June said with a smile. Augustine is nice. April is a bit snobbish and May is a bit stiff towards me. Ah, don't worry about them. Like you, they were once fostered by Mr. and Mrs. Haven, but unfortunately, they couldn't become a lady of the house. Why not? I don't know any of the details, they were here before me. June said flatly. Now go to sleep, I don't want to check up on you and see that you're still awake because of some ghost stories, alright? Yes, ma'am. Arya said as she began to lay on the bed. Now go to sleep. June left and went downstairs to the courtyard. Holly, Nova, Winter, Autumn, Aster, Juliet. Which one of you wants to be the next bait? Holly should take it. She was so eager last time. That was different, these men are armed. They haven't returned the master's guns yet. You do it, Juliet, since you're the one who brought it up. She then fell silent. Weren't we supposed to take those rifles, after they were done? April asked. They got done early. What were we supposed to do, expose ourselves and be burned in the sun or turned to stone? Well, it's going to be death by decapitation now. They then started arguing amongst themselves. Stop it. All of you. We're burning moonlight. June said in an authoritative manner. She then said, Aster, Winter, you two will be the bait this time. They then left the castle grounds on foot at high speed. Edward left with few people in tow. Unbeknown to them, a group of women were following them into the woods. Despicable humans, they didn't even bother to return the master's rifles. Now they're acting like it's theirs as they own. Octavia said as she saw the mayor's son carrying her master's rifle. She said as they hide under the shadows of the trees. Why are they looking for the mayor out here? Who knows? Peasants have always been so easily manipulated. June said as she narrowed her eyes at the young man, who was leading the group. Edward, I think we should go back, and wait for morning. Ask around some more. One of the men beside Edward said. If you want to head back like a coward, go ahead, he said as he nudged his horse away from them. The man then followed him, despite their opposition. June and the others were about to attack, when all of a sudden she noticed a lion creeping towards the men. Stop. Is that a lion? She said as she narrowed her eyes. I think so. April said in confirmation. It's gonna attack them. What do we do? Holly said in realization. Wait. June said. Remember that the lady mentioned that she only went with the story of it being a wolf, when in fact, it's a lion that makes hissing sound. You think this is that creature, June? May asked. The lion then ended up attacking the men, shots rang out at the dead of the night. They watched for a while as the men struggle with the beast. June, what do we do? We're supposed to be hunting them. But what if we're seen? Octavia said in a worried tone. They'll either die by our hands, or by the monster. June said as she made up her mind. Let's go. They then rush in. It wasn't until they got close that they noticed the horns on top of its head. What is that? Augustine said in shock as she stood frozen in place. "That is not a lion," she said in exclamation. The beast then let out a roar and hissed as it stared them down. It then attacked and got on top of Aster. She tried to hold the beast's jaw as it tried to bite her head off. June grabbed the beast by its mane and pulled it off Aster. They then surrounded it. They were so preoccupied with the beast that they didn't notice that some of the men were still alive. "Vampires!" they screamed, diverting the women's attention to them. A man then attempted to shot them. As soon as they were distracted, the beast jumped and ripped one of their heads. "Juliet!" one of them screamed. The beast then launched at her. If you like this story so far, like, comment, and subscribe so we can reach 1,000 subscribers. And if this video gets enough views and subscribers, it will give me motivation to write season 2. "Nova, watch out!" they yelled, but it was too late. The beast had already bitten off her head. Another shot was fired and it nearly hit April's head. She turned to the man who fired the shot. Her eyes glowed red with fury as she walked over to him and snapped his head off. "Ah!" she screamed in frustration. Another man tried to get away until Octavia stepped on him, pulled his hair, and snapped his head with no mercy in her eyes. "Nuisance," she said with a spat. Seeing them fight off the beast, Edward pleaded for mercy. "Please," he said. Hearing his voice, May walked over to him. She smiled and said, "Oh good, looks like you're still alive. It would be bad if we come home empty-handed." She then leaned in to smell his blood. "Looks like you might be as tasty as your father," she said with a smile as Edward's eyes widened in shock. Just then, the beast managed to rip off one of their arms. "Ah. Snow. Fuck it," May said as she picked up the rifle that was lying next to Edward and aimed at the beast. She then caught the beast's attention and it launched towards her. When one of her sisters tackled it. "Aster!" June got up as she was knocked unconscious by the beast earlier. When she woke up, she saw Aster's dead body lying in front of her. When she got up, she saw that it was not only Aster, but also Juliet, Snow, and Nova. "Ah!" June stood in shock as she noticed that the sun was already rising. When she saw autumn and winter burning into the fog quickly, April said in a frantic manner. She was about to carry Edward when she noticed that he already died from the blood loss. When June then noticed that the beast was gone, she said, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up inside." She stayed behind to watch the mangled bodies of her sisters burst into flames, leaving no trace of them. April and the others breathed a sigh of relief when they made it through the doors of the castle. What happened? They turned and saw Leah. A while later, they then gathered at the dark drawing room. A lion with horns. I've only ever heard about such a thing. Where father? Leah asked curiously. I think it was about more than 1,000 years ago. During the height of Greek civilization. There were stories of animal hybrids. They used to roam around the ancient world. We often came across their kind due to our shared preference for humans. However, such encounters didn't end well for us. One hybrid lion could slaughter an entire coven of vamps and vampires. But in the end, it was human innovation that led to the beast's near extinction. Now you only hear about them in tall tales in Persia. But how did it get here? Mrs. Haven asked. That's what I intend to find out. Leah said as she stood up. Looks like we're going to have to ration again for the time being. While we're at that, we should also let everyone know that some of our maids are missing to avoid suspicion. Then I guess you're going to be heading to town? Mrs. Haven asked. Leah nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Arya got up and found that there was no water to wash up with. She then opened the door to look if there was anyone coming. When she saw that there was not, she then got dressed by herself. When she felt hungry, she made the mistake of looking for the kitchen. As she was now lost in the castle. She then went down a flight of stairs, then a hallway. Then she heard crying and yelling coming from a room. which looked to be the servants' chambers. "What do you want me to say? That's not her fault." April's voice rang out angrily. She then heard a familiar voice saying, "We all thought it was just a lion. Half of our sisters are gone because June decided to attack." April yelled again. Sounds of things breaking and falling came from inside the room. Arya cracked the door open slightly to see what was happening. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw April holding up another maid by the neck, her feet suspended from the ground. "Stop it, both of you," June said as she separated both of them forcefully that they hit the walls and the opposite sides of the dimly lit room with boarded windows. Arya was so shocked that she didn't notice that the door had opened fully until "Arya," May said as she got off from her fall. The child gazed up at them with widened eyes and her mouth open. Arya froze as she didn't know what to say to them after what she had seen. "Why is that dress so loose?" Octavia said as she narrowed her eyes at Arya. "That's not a nightgown, is it?" "No, she's just not wearing a corset," Augustine said as she let out a sigh. April then asked, "Did you see anything?" The child then flinched in response. "Of course she saw something, April." "With how loud we have been," June said as she approached the child. "Don't worry, child, we just had a disagreement," she said with a smile. April sighed and said, "I'll take her back to her room to get dressed properly." Like this story, comment, and subscribe to be notified when the next chapter comes out.